up your mind. Fill up your day. Oink, oink, oink. Smart little bites that brighten your way. You're listening to Food for Thought Radio here at FFTradio.com. Food for Thought Radio here at FFTradio.com.
Yes, it's everybody's favourite weekday evening once again. This is the Food for Thought Radio and this is the Farmers and Finance segment. I'm your host, Gary Glendale, and with me in the studio is producer Paul. Paul, are you with me?
I'm with you. Yes, I am in more ways than one.
Excellent. That's what we like. The more the merrier. More ways you can be with people, the merrier. So with this being the Food, Farmers and Finance segment, we're going to be talking about money, moolah, dosh, cash, the thing that makes the world go round, the oil that makes the world go round. Money, because it's money that makes the world go round. So as Henry Kissinger said, who controls money controls the world. But if you control money, then it's not money, because money has to be a commodity. And a commodity is the only thing that has common value in a common marketplace. Because a security is not money. A security is meant to secure your entitlement to the value of the money. But when you remove money from currency, as in Nixon shock, 15th of August 1971, that's when you end up with securities fraud, which is what the whole world is running on. And as I think it was Lord Denning said in Lazarus Estates versus Beazley, if fraud is found anywhere in the process, it null and voids the entire transaction. Now that means that since all these companies like BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street are buying land and property using fiat currency, well, that null and voids the entire transaction because they've bought it with fraud, which means somebody has been defrauded out of it. So when they say you will own nothing and be happy, well, we've got our first chink in their armour. Because not only have they bought it with fraud, which makes the transaction invalid, there is also a new money coming to town. And this is what I'm desperate to educate all the farmers on in particular, because it is food security that is absolutely essential for the survival of a sovereign nation. Because if you cannot feed your people and you're dependent on someone else, well, you don't bite the hand that feeds you. And then the hand that feeds you might turn a little bit nasty and take advantage of the situation that they're in. Because if they have absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that's what we're dealing with at the moment. So the only way we're going to get out of this, because all legal and political influence stem from economic power, is by reverting back to a true money. A true money that they do not control. A true money that gives us an exit out from their toxic economy, from their toxic fiat currency economy that they own and control, that they can literally manipulate the economy with, make us poor if they like through the effects of inflation by enriching themselves, increasing the poor wealth divide, the rich poor divide, which is what they're doing on purpose, because divide and conquer. Even though they'll tell you diversity is our strength, what we really know is that united we stand, divided we fall. And the only way that people are going to unite is through economic incentive. If they have a way out of their purposely created, economically toxic economy, that's where people are going to unite. And that means everyone, every race, colour, creed, religion, you name it, they all have one thing in common, and that is an economic benefit. They will go where the economic benefits flow. And economics benefits flow using a medium of exchange that no one controls, because therefore nobody can manipulate it, that is effectively, for want of a better word, unlimited in its divisibility. So in other words, its divisibility keeps on going in the same way that fiat currency printing keeps on going. But instead of fiat currency printing going up and therefore the value going down, when somebody just keeps on being divided, the value just never stops going up. And that's effectively how we're going to win, because when they are forced to join us in our economy, if our economy is based on the demand for data integrity, well, that makes all politicians and judges honest, because they have to be honest, because they can be provably honest or provably false if they've been lying. They can be held to account. And that's what we really want. So not only do we want a money that's infinitely divisible, we also want the network that it comes from, where for data to not be cracked, hacked, altered, changed, or deleted, and traceable and accountable through a chain of digital signatures. And this is how we get out of it, because their toxic economy will continue to shrink until it goes to zero. And how do we know it's going to go to zero? Because it always does. As let me think, can't remember the name of the famous Voltaire. Voltaire once said, paper money always finishes at its intrinsic value, zero. And that's what they're using. They're using paper money, always ends at its intrinsic value. So what we need is a commodity. And if you can commoditize digital data, not only can you pass that data around faster than you can even pass a bit of paper, and further as well, because you can transfer it around the world as fast and as efficient as light. It means you invite the whole world economy into this positive economy, where the small businesses can then start to survive and thrive. And not only that, small micro businesses will then start to develop. So businesses, for example, where margins are so small, for example, like litter picking maybe or something like that, well, those litter picking businesses, like in third world countries, can now survive, because if they're making anything at all, anything, that little bit of an asset is increasing in value over time. If they can just make a little bit of Bitcoin. So suddenly you get all these micro economies popping up. For example, like people in Africa who just want a sewing machine, so they can sew the cloth and the garments together of their people in their village and stuff like that. Well, they can do that. All these little micro businesses that would normally fail because they're reliant on transactions that are too small for a central or retail bank to conduct, Bitcoin can do. And these people, and because it's fixed in supply, whereas before, when sort of like some people in Africa, they started using text messages on phones, because when their currency started going down in value, it was no good to them. Well, they needed something that was fixed in its supply. So they started using phone credits, because a phone credit was for a minute. And that minute didn't increase or reduce in time. So therefore, you always got a minute. So rather than actually transferring currency, they were transferring mobile time use. All these things. And again, recently I read an article about how the Irish banks once closed down. I think it might have been in the 1900s or something like that. And everybody was expecting the Irish economy to literally go under. When all that happened was the Irish pub stepped in. The Irish pub stepped in, and everybody was just simply writing checks to one another. And when the banks came online, literally they found that I think they'd written something like $5 billion worth of checks to each other, but the economy had just carried on, because it was all based on trust. Like, who was trustworthy enough to fulfill the trade that was going on at the time? Oh, right, you give me beer, you give me something else, you give me this, you give me that, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Who is trustworthy? And they said, well, the reason that the bartender, or the bar stepped in is because you don't work in a bar and not learn much about your customers' liquid assets, as they said. So they knew who was trustworthy and who isn't. So this is where literally all legal and political influence stem from economic power, which means people have to have an understanding of money. And all those who understand the problem need to be in on this first, which is why I'm desperately trying to explain it, how you can commoditize data. Because if you want to know what the most valuable money is going to be, All you have to do is commoditize the most useful resource. And in today's day and age, everything is digital. So if you can commoditize data, and that data is extracted from a commoditized digital network, and you use that network to have sovereignty over your data in order to produce data integrity, so you can make sure that the data can't be cracked, hacked, altered, changed, or deleted, and it's not susceptible to cybersecurity hacks or virus software, well, then you enter a trust economy. And at the moment, we're in a distrust economy because nobody trusts the politicians, nobody trusts the bankers, nobody trusts the judiciary, nobody trusts anyone at the moment. Certainly nobody wants to trust doctors. Jeepers. So this is literally where the Bitcoin network can save everything, and they've had to subvert the Bitcoin network. But what they couldn't do was take the #1 legacy address with them. So when they created an alternative protocol on the 24th of August 2017, all they had to do was collude with the exchanges to steal the market, to secure the market ticker symbol of Bitcoin, which was represented by the ticker symbol BTC at the time, just simply secure it onto their centrally controlled network. But the moment they did that, that meant that BTC represented an economically worthless security offering, making BTC the largest Ponzi scheme in modern day financial history. $1.5 trillion worth. Bernie Madoff at 60 million. Is it 60 million or 60 billion? 60 million.
Billion.
Was it 60
It must have
billion,
been
Dom?
billion. It must have been.
Yeah, it must have
60
been.
million's
Yeah, it must have
nothing. They wouldn't have even put him in the papers for that, would they?
That's true, yeah. So $60 billion, but $1.5 trillion is 1,000 billion. That's 1,500 billion, let alone 60. 60 isn't even 60 billion. Well, it's not even 100 billion. Let
I won't get out of bed for that.
Yeah, have you noticed the figures being thrown around the world these days? I think I saw James Bond Thunderbolt the other day, and they were talking about plans that were being sold by some criminal enterprise, and they were saying, how much are they being sold for? And James Bond goes, $300,000.
Yep, that's when $300,000 could get you quite a lot, actually.
That's when $300,000 was a lot of money. You can
Well, a lot of currency.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was.
Borrow that from a retail bank these days. Jeepers.
Well, the other example on that one, Gary, is Austin Powers.
Yes.
Dr. Evil.
Yeah.
We're going to for $1 million. And they'll look at him like, you donkey.
Yeah.
No. Oh, sorry. $1 billion. Well, even that's not enough. $100 billion. He's all very tentative, isn't he? Doesn't know what the value of anything is anymore. How much should I demand so that I really come across as evil? Well, not $1 million, you chump. Yeah. Very funny, that.
What was he? He reverses that, doesn't he? Like on the following episode.
Does he?
Oh yeah. Because initially he's in the modern day, and he goes $1 million, and all laughing at him. They're like, all right, there's $1 million. But then he goes back in time, and he demands, like, I think it was in the 1960s or something like that, because he's got the time machine. And they go, how much do you want? And he goes like, $1 billion. And they all burst out laughing because they were just like, nobody can afford that. Because they couldn't print that much.
I need to see that one. I'm still stuck at that great scene in the first one. I know we've gone slightly sidetracked. We'll get back onto it. But the bit where he's trying to turn that truck round in that alley.
Yes.
That is just epic visual comedy. It's really brilliant. I just go, it's so good. It's so earnest as well. He's not sort of figured it out. He's just keenly getting on with the job of going backwards and forwards for hours. Love it. It's like Laurel and Hardy-esque, is that? Trying his best in impossibly stupid circumstances. Quite brilliant. Yeah, I loved it.
That was the one with because they've again, like the Bond birds. It was Liz Hurley in the first one, then it was Heather Graham in the second one, The Spy Who Shagged Me. I can't remember what the last one was, but that had Beyonce Knowles in it. She was the one. I can't remember what the last one was called. Oh, a gold member rather than Goldfinger.
Good. At least I notice a pattern here with his films with Austin Powers. So yeah, good stuff though. Fun.
I think my favourite one was probably the Spy Who Shagged Me. Like the first one, I think because it was so slapstick, I didn't really know what to make of it. I think it was one of these movies, a bit like. Have you seen Anchorman? With
Yes.
Will Ferrell in it. Yeah. So Anchorman. I mean, again, this is just my personal sense of humour. I first watched it and I didn't find it very funny, and everyone's going, "Oh no, it's brilliant, it's brilliant, it's brilliant." So I thought, I'll watch it again. I watched it again. Yeah, it just didn't really do anything for me. And then one night I went out, got absolutely pissed with my mates.
Really?
Came back.
Shocked.
Yeah. Came back drunk, and I thought, you know what? I'll put Anchorman on, and literally, I was pissing myself. I thought this thing was so funny. I was creasing up,
Yes, it's got some very witty bits in it. Yeah, it is. It's wonderfully awkward. It's all about this sort of clash of manners in many areas, which makes for great comedy. It's bloody funny. Yeah, it's good at times. I liked it.
It only really appealed to me when I was drunk. But I honestly, I was pissing myself. Yeah, I even watched it back the next day when I was like sober, and I was just like, yeah, I don't know what I was laughing at. But when I was drunk, I thought it was absolutely
just
hilarious.
got to have a drink to watch Anchorman, mate. That's obviously what's come up.
Well, yeah,
I'll watch it, but I need a few beers beforehand.
Well, the thing is that I even remember the bits that I thought were absolutely hilarious, and that was like the smell of Sex Panther. 50% of the time it works first time, every time.
Yeah, some of those characters in there are so revoltingly cheesy and smug. They're just incredibly, absolutely repulsive. It's great though, because they're just completely so confident about it. I love all those bits. Yeah, and is the first one where they have the newscaster fight or something from the rival's station or whatever it is?
Yeah,
that's just mad.
They have all the
like a fistful of dollars or something. It was just off the charts silly. Yeah, it's a very silly film, but good. We like silly. Silly's good.
Well, like I said, that kind of like slapstick sense of humour. Again, probably only appeals to me when I'm drunk, but that's what I'm saying. With Austin Powers, I didn't really know how to take the first one, but like if I watched it back, I'd probably think it was really funny, especially when like Liz Hurley turns out to be a fembot.
Very close, actually. She's not a great actress, is she? I think it's a bit hit and miss as a film. When it hits really well, but it's a bit patchy, I thought. But that's just me being slightly sniffy. It's just a movie and all that kind of stuff. They don't make movies anymore, do they? Oh, I think they do, but they don't seem to make too many these days. I think movies seem to have. They're not using movies to cudgel people's brains to the degree that they used to. I had a wry smile earlier on when you said about it will make them provably honest. I thought that's going to be. Let's work on the basis that that's the case. It gets up to a head of steam. It's going to make for really good TV, isn't it? Watching these corrupt wasters being slowly, inexorably dragged into a condition of being provably honest. Many of them, of course, won't make it because so much dirt will come out in the process, I would think, if we've got an honourable media. But then the media are going to have to be provably honest as well. So it reduces, individual wriggle room to actually muck about with other people's perceptions and things. So lots to say for it. It will be a new world. But, this is the thing. I mean, everybody's talking about the external factors in terms of, I guess, AI and robots in your house, although I'd love one to do the cooking. I have to say, it just gets so boring when you're just doing it all the time. So, I won't be averse to a bit of that. And the washing up. Although the washing up actually is quite a zen moment. I don't know if you do washing up. I don't have a dishwasher. I refuse to get one. They take as long to load as they do you just doing the washing up. So I have a lot of good thoughts while I've got my hands covered in suds and stuff like that.
Do you want to know why that is? This is fascinating. So I have experienced the same thing with washing up, and I'll tell you why. Because you have to organise and arrange the washing up, the cutlery, the plates, the bowls, the pots, the pans, the cups. You have to stack them up, and then you have to wash them in the most efficient, orderly manner in order to then rack them up. Right. Well, while you're doing that, your brain, that's the hippocampus part of your brain that deals with logic, reasoning, rationale, visual, spatial memory, assessment, judgment, sympathy, everything. So when your hippocampus is stimulated, and again, it's stimulated while you're doing the washing up because you've got to concentrate on making sure you don't smash a glass and making sure you don't stab yourself with a knife or a fork or anything like that. Dry them and put them back and all this kind of stuff. while you're doing that and your hippocampus is stimulated for a prolonged period of time, it then stimulates your pineal gland, which allows intuition to flow. And that's where that Zen moment comes from when you said you were doing the washing up, because your hippocampus is stimulated and it keeps going. That stimulation leads on to stimulation of the pineal gland, which then allows intuition to flow. That's what.
So, Gary, I think you've struck upon something here. One of the pathways back to increased consciousness, mental acuity, and aliveness is, ladies and gentlemen, get rid of your dishwashers and get stuck in. I mean, seriously, it makes a lot of sense. Maybe this explains why the lack of housework for women with all these machines is actually making them more stupid. I think that this is it. I hope that offended someone. That was the purpose of it, by the way. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't believe in mangles and things like that. Mangles were just terrible things. I mean, housewives, actually, you don't think about this, because we were talking about it the other day. I didn't get a washing machine till I was 6. That was 1966, right? We didn't have one. My mum washed everything in a big tub in the kitchen and had a mangle, and then you have to dry it out, and that's why the weather was critical, because there's a lot of sweat goes in there, gathering it all up, washing it twice a week, whatever it was, hanging it all out. Oh, I've got nowhere to hang this clothes. I just remember all these conversations, the chit chat in the house about just managing the household. It's actually a big deal. And it should be quite a deal, I think, because it provides a lot of good moments. It's great that you pointed that out. I'm very pleased to have heard that, because it explains it. I think also, maybe not to the same degree, although you can't. I know, not that I've done it recently, because I'm vehicle-less at the moment. That won't last forever. I'm quite enjoying not having a car, though. It's not, it's not a big deal for me. I don't go anywhere. I've got nowhere to go. Nobody invites me out to parties because I start talking about things they want me to go. No, not really. But driving, right? Long drives can be absolutely fantastic for thinking. They really can. And not motorway driving, that's bad, because your hippocampus is not getting stimulated at all. You're just actually nodding off. But if you're going on and it's got to be just the right sort of road. If it's too tortuous, you can't think at all, because you just don't want to drive in that bus that's coming down this single, road that only allows one thing. But overall, they're really good. I know a good friend of mine said he loved long drives. He was out in Europe and he used to drive from sort of Germany over to Western Russia and then back and all this kind of stuff.
Wow.
And he just loved it. Yeah, sort of. He said, "Oh no, I do all my best thinking there," and then he's stopping by the roadside, writing notes down, and then carries on. I know exactly what he means. There's something good about it. There's something very good about it.
That happens. It's literally because you're focused when you're driving. It's the hippocampus that's stimulated. So the hippocampus, because it's stimulated, then leads on to the stimulation of the pineal gland, and this is why, whenever you get brain fog or writer's block or musician's block or whatever they want to call it, the reason they get that is because whatever it is they're doing is then no longer challenging them. So their hippocampus is actually no longer being used for creativity and initiative, even though what they're doing is quite creative. But because they've done it so many times before, and it's effectively on repeat, the hippocampus then starts to shut down. And it's the hippocampus that prevents the cortisol from coming through and blocking the hippocampus. So if your hippocampus starts to dull due to repetitiveness and not doing anything new, cortisol will start to come through, will block the hippocampus, which cause writer's block and music block and everything else like that. And that's what burnout is. Burnout is literally where your hippocampus is not being used because you've done the same thing over and over and over. This is why you have to take a break and do something different. So whenever there's something that you can't think of, or let's say you had like a fleeting thought about something while you were daydreaming, and then you think to yourself, right, I must write that down. That was a really good thought. And then literally 5 seconds later, you can't for the life of you remember what it was that you actually wanted to remember, because your brain was like going on like a freight train charging forward, and then you go, damn, rather than stressing yourself out about it, just simply know that memory is still in your hippocampus somewhere, and all you need to do is stimulate your hippocampus. So you go away, do something different, like even if you just get up and walk around the room, or get up and fold your clothes, or get down and go down and make yourself a cup of tea, anything like that. During that process of doing that, your hippocampus will then start to function again, and the memory will come back. That's how it works.
It just works great. Everything just works great, doesn't it? It does. Do you think we are hippocampus hippies? It's
Absolutely.
quite interesting. I mean, a hippocampus is not a camp hippie. I'm really quite clear about that. But it's obviously, it's time for the hippocampus movement to spring up into life. It's a big deal. You know, I was thinking as well about reading books. I don't know what that's like, but I mean, because it's new, you see, you're going from page to page. I think reading's massively powerful. I saw something about it the other day, an American guy just talking for about 15 minutes about not even what you're reading, but the fact that you consistently put aside, say, 30 minutes a day to read something and don't do anything else during that 30 minutes. That's way better than sitting down and sort of doing 4 or 5 hours in some huge slog. Because your bum goes numb as well. And it just is, and it's really good, and you're alone, and it's you and your thoughts, and your imagination starts to get stimulated. Well, it does if you're going to enjoy the book. If it doesn't, you probably put it down. But it's not the book that's generally at fault, although there's some trash out there which you shouldn't be reading. Yeah. But, you know, overall, it's not as if there's any shortage of good literature. It's just that people don't even know what it is anymore, I suppose. But no, I shouldn't be so negative. There's many, I don't know what book reading sales are like, but generally, you know, a population that doesn't read is easy to lead. They don't have enough sort of stock in their head. They don't. You've got to get it. You know, I remember early on thinking, well, if I read all this stuff, I might learn things, but also you learn how to phrase things better. And if you're in the presence of great writers, you go, wow, you know, sometimes you read a paragraph, you go, bloody hell, that was absolutely, I go, I'm going to read that one again. That was that good. It was so fantastic. So evocative.
What's your favorite book?
I don't know. I don't suppose I have one. Any given one. It's generally whatever I'm reading at the time.
Just from an economic perspective, just for those of you who might not have heard this book, as a kid, I mean, I don't know if I still am. I took a dyslexia test, and they said, yeah, you know, I was. But that was I think, you know, I personally think that dyslexia is a vaccine injury. You know, from kids having, you know, mercury
Could be.
Injected into
Could be,
them.
yeah.
So I actually found that my pineal gland was decalcified when I went through this period of mental instability, you know, like there was crazy, and my head hurt so much, like, oh my goodness me, like how on earth I tolerated it, I have no idea, because I couldn't tolerate it anymore. But the pain that my brain was going through, which was the cortisol dissolving the neurons in my hippocampus, what I also think that cortisol might possibly have been doing is not only was it dissolving neurons in my hippocampus, so effectively it was like dissolving my hippocampus, I also suspect that it was also decalcifying my pineal gland. Because when I eventually recovered, my pineal gland started functioning, because I started receiving all this intuition and deja vu and all this kind of stuff. Like literally to the point where it was absolutely insane, and I was just like, what is going on? You know, and then I was just like, oh my goodness me, this is the stimulation of the pineal gland that people are talking about. Like I was predicting things, or, you know, having premonitions of things that were going to happen in the future that happened like, you know, a few days later. Like literally, I'm just like, what is going on? So we're all literally connected to the ether via our pineal glands, which is why they want to calcify it. So they're purposely feeding us processed foods and putting fluoride in toothpaste so that we don't have the intuition, so we can't see past the bullshit. That's why you end up with all these people going, oh, safe and effective, safe and effective. You know, the pineal glands are calcified to fuck. You know?
Yep. It's true. Really well, they are. I've just been out shopping in a place with a lot of local herberts. It's the only way to describe them, really. And they're just sort of trudging around at very low speed. I mean, I make sure that my shopping trips are lightning fast. I know exactly what I'm going to get, and I'm in and out of there as quickly as I can possibly be. But one cannot help but notice the sheer sort of slothful sluggishness of so many people and the way that they dress and all this kind of stuff. And I sound like a right snotty toff, but I'm not. I'm just a normal working geezer. But you look around and you think, I don't remember people being this slack-assed when I was younger, and they weren't. Frankly, people weren't.
I'm the same. I went to one of these old Tudor mansions near where I live. I won't say where that is. But in the courtyard, they've got, you know, kitchens and coffee shops and a cafe and all this kind of stuff. And I was sat there with my friends, looking around at people, and I just said, you know what? I can't relate to anybody here. Like, everybody looked like an NPC, you know, a non-player character. Like, literally everyone. And I was just like, there is no one here that would inspire me to want to go and talk to them, just by the way that they were conducting themselves. And I was just like, I don't remember it ever being, you know, everybody was overweight. You know, everybody was sat down eating donuts, you know, and biscuits and coffee. There wasn't anybody that had any fruit or anything of any healthy on their plate, you know. I was just like, wow. You know,
it's just an indoctrination. It's a very slow burn indoctrination process into slothfulness. It's not that they're inherently that way. It's a gradual, you know, erosion of values over decades by design. And of course, you know, when we say you look at every single area and it's been weaponized against us, it's true. Yeah. Every single area, everything, every aspect.
Well. Jobs have become repetitive, and again, there's no such thing as a job for life anymore. So you don't get to build up relations with your customers, you know, because the job turnover and then the job, you know, is, and basically also businesses these days, it's all about screwing your customer rather than actually treating your customer. Like all these guys that work in the trading pits or on the stock market or on the stock exchange, they're not investors anymore. They're traders. They're literally financial parasites skimming off the top of everybody's trade. And it's all short term.
Well, if you... Yeah, you're right. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but the analogy of currency being a drug holds true in just every time you hammer it. And so these traders are basically drug dealers.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah. Well, they're
and currency is a drug. It's absolutely a drug, and it amplifies the love of currency, it should say, right? The love of currency, now that we know it is. Of course, it was money then. They hadn't created currency back then. But even so, what it's saying is if this is all you lust after, you might end up getting some, but you lose the most vital part of life, which probably is, in part, a very active hippocampus and a pineal gland that works, and having a vivid and rich imagination, which everybody remembers having when they were a child, before the brain got clogged up with goo. And I think one of the ways you keep it at bay, well, certainly for me, is reading. You do. And I think if you meet older people that still read a lot, they're mentally very active and alive. They've always got something to talk about. They've always got a latest thought to digest, integrate, study, accept or reject or quantify or put aside for a little while. These things are non-stop, and it is brilliant, really. It's not it's an ordeal. No, it isn't. It's the complete opposite of that. It's like everything's set up really to feed us. And a little mantra I've had running in my head for the last week or so is that I just think about these things, like we all do. And everybody says, well, the bad guys are doing this and the bad guys are doing that. And I go, yeah, this is true. Absolutely. But the problem is too many people, I would suggest, woulda, shoulda, coulda, and all that kind of stuff, spending far too much time out of their conscious waking hours looking at this stuff. It's just the principles behind it that you need to know, and not enough time building what they want. And we do have BSV right at the top of the list, or up there with several other things. We've got all the tools we need to restore a more dynamically fruitful way of life in keeping with our general nature. And that's what's being ground at. And of course, when you live in a communist state, this is it. And communists are basically mentally ill people. Yeah. They are. I mean, I'm not saying it as an insult. They're literally mentally ill. They think that they can resolve things by more and more power coming to them, and we'll sort the rest of you out. And you go, your entire context for understanding life is completely miserable, woe-begotten, and devoid of any value whatsoever. And of course, they cannot be brought to look at their own history. You do realise that you people are responsible for more rivers of blood than any other group on the face of the earth. You do know that, don't you? But you see, they're in denial of that, and you can't even communicate it with them. And even if you were to try, you'd be wasting your time because they're that far gone. They're like top-level drug addicts, and they're gone. We're not getting them back.
Is, though, a lot of them are paid to be like that by George Soros, aren't they?
Unfortunately, yes. He even pays and funds the Firefox browser, which therefore is the sign of the devil. And I tell everybody to not use it. Oh yeah, you don't want to be using Firefox. It's I still think Brave's the best browser out there by a mile, because the guy that's behind Brave I haven't read any interviews with him recently, but he's one of us, because he's the guy that built Mozilla Firefox. And when it started to go all corporate, he left. He said, I'm not having that. And so if you're watching YouTube videos on Brave, for example, I know we've gone slightly techie, it tends to obliterate nearly all the in-real ads and many of the other ads. It's got an ad smasher, and it's fantastic. Yeah, it's really good. So, and we use it as the basis here at FFT Radio. I don't use any other browser. I use Brave to run things on.
Brilliant.
And that's how it all works, for that reason. It's very resistant to jiggery-pokery. It won't be 100%, nothing is, but it's better. It's the least worst option. That's the way I phrase it, and by quite a margin, I think. Opera's pretty good too, although it's Chinese now, so you can't trust that at all.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
but I won't worry about
what's
it.
interesting about Brave browsers, that Brave initially they also launched their own token. I think it was the BAT token, Basic Attention Token. On the Brave browser, but because I knew the token was a scam, I didn't trust the Brave browser. But if the guy's genuine and he was just mistaken about the difference between a commodity and a security, then I can forgive him.
Yeah. It's not all, it's not all intentional evil that we're facing. I mean, I think the main problem, of course, is this rivers of stupidity that are everywhere. And part of everybody's personal journey is to get rid of your stupidity. And to do that, you've got to be willing to recognize it. And that's the main thing. Actually, I could be wrong here. And that's a biggie, particularly for people who've been sort of trained, i.e. sent down rail tracks their entire life, to just have a certain sort of limited worldview. And you've got to include everything. And there's a lot of sordid, unpleasant frightfulness out there. And I'm not saying wallow in it, but you must be aware of it. I think it's important.
So talking about being aware of things, what did you make of the Unite the Kingdom rally 2 days ago, organised by Tommy Robinson?
Well, it's interesting you mention. I mean, all I've caught is second and third hand reports of it. I didn't follow it or watch it or anything like that. I tend to not do that with anything. I always leave it a few days until I actually look at it, simply because I think my attention and my emotions are just as easy to hijack now. At least I know that. And so I try to not react or respond to things too quickly. If I can, I give it several days, and then I'll nibble around the edges and see what's going on. But I was listening to Mike Graham's show this morning, because we pick it up sometimes and send it out over FFT naughtily, but you got to do it. And it's not really in keeping with the rest of the station. I mean, he's a mainstream guy, and much of what he says I don't agree with. But every now and again, there are these little sort of points of clarity in it. The context for what they've got, though, of course, is still mangled because they think the wrong people are our friends and this, that, and the other, and all this kind of stuff. I tend to drop Tommy Robinson in that thing as well. You have to look at who his backers are, and you suddenly go, I don't want to be part of this, and that's that. Done. And he's not the first character in history that's been in a position like this. I'm not saying he's necessarily bad or whatever, but he's not my cup of tea. I know that Rupert Lowe, I did hear that Rupert Lowe was invited to go. Mike Graham mentioned this morning. He said, oh, yeah, Rupert Lowe couldn't make it. He was invited. He was talking to Andrew Bridgen. That was it. Mike Graham was talking to Andrew Bridgen this morning, and Bridgen's got a few question marks against him, but he also says some fantastic stuff. It's the same for everybody. You've got to pick and choose, He was saying that Rupert Lowe had been invited but couldn't come because it was his 40th wedding anniversary that day, and he wanted to make it to his 41st, which I quite liked as a quote. Now, whether he actually said that or not, I don't know, but I think it's pretty cool. And in Andrew Bridgen's favour, he is trying to get Matt Hancock into court, but Hancock keeps wriggling out of it. They've been trying to get into it for years. Hancock won't answer any of these questions, and of course, that's the creature that was, he's just a creature, really, isn't he? So there we go.
Well, also the thing is, I mean, I know, man, I've heard other people got questions about Andrew, but I know Andrew personally. I've met him numerous times and spoken to his he's even been on my show. I've interviewed him. I find him extremely credible and very genuine and remorseful.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I do as well.
Extremely remorseful over the fact that he even did biology previously, and he was duped. He got jabbed twice. You know, but he honestly got hoodwinked. But then people don't forgive him for it. But I mean, I think he was just as horrified as everybody else. Even John Campbell. John Campbell was, first of all, initially like promoting the vaccine, thinking everything was fine. Yeah, but I literally recorded his journey. I thought it was fascinating because he was doing all of his research as it goes, and I was just like, he's going to catch on one day, and this is going to be fascinating to watch. And you could see the transformation as he started to realise, you know, what was going on and how things didn't add up. And I think that's what happened to Andrew. I think Andrew is absolutely genuine.
I tend to agree with you. I've never met him. I know that Kizzy, who does a show on FFT on Wednesday, she's working on Andrew having a show here. We'd be all on for that. Not just yet. I think we need a few more months yet to get a few more ducks in a row and stuff like that. But it's all happening. But I think he would be an asset. And basically, sometimes everybody's got a different path, don't they? And if you look at anybody's life and you ask them if anything has ever gone wrong and they say no, then you're dealing with someone who's obviously mentally dead or something, because it's going to go wrong. And really, it's not the fact that it's gone wrong or that you made a poor decision. It's how you respond after that. And I think Andrew is responding brilliantly. I mean, I don't know him. I shouldn't even call him Andrew. It's wrong of me. Mr. Bridgen is responding really well. So, and I like the cut of his jib, and I like his type of energy. It's grounded. He's not a highfalutin sort of character, but he speaks accurately and eloquently about things, and he knows the score. And many do, and they probably regret these things. We've all got them, but there's no point wallowing in it because we're alive now, not yesterday. Yeah. And the idea, if yesterday's got any value, it's to learn from it. And you go, okay, I really cocked up there, or I did a really good thing there. I want to do more good things, cool things that are great, and I want to do less of those cocked up things that really, because you're the one ultimately, well, not ultimate, but always that carries it with you. You do if you're conscious. Some people, of course, don't carry any guilt about anything, and that's because they're psychopaths, really. I think, for want of a better word.
Well, it was actually Andrew Bridgen when he was speaking at the United Kingdom rally. He gave a shout out to Rupert Lowe, and Rupert Lowe got a massive cheer from the crowd. A huge
restores it. All the others, all this other stuff is fruffery. Yeah. It's nonsense. It's not even now. It's wrong of me to say that because no doubt someone will be trying to find skeletons in Rupert Lowe's cabinet and probably will find some. So what? I think you have to say that you're not going to get the perfect guy or situation. So forget that. What you have to do is look at what's the best option right now, and seeing as how, whether we like it or not, politics is a major influence in people's lives. Yeah. Although it's not in those lives where people. It just is. Well, yeah, I mean, you can't escape it.
That they brought in all that crap.
So they say. They say they're going to do that, don't they? And I think much of it is to do with how we as individuals and then in little clusters, i.e. crowds, respond to that. And many people just accept it. In other words, their language is, I think, mistaken. Many of the responses are mistaken. They actually go along with it as if there's nothing they can do. They're going to do this. No, they're not. They're not. Yeah, and now they may well do. That might be a fatuous thing that I've just said, but I think it's an attitudinal thing. It's like when people say, well, Sadiq Khan's the mayor of London. I point out to them that he's not. I don't care whether you say it is. He's not, because he's not an Englishman. So he's not. He never has been. Anybody that says he has, they're also mistaken. They've got a big mistake to learn about. This is not against him personally, although I think, he's a ridiculous character because he's saying the wrong things to the wrong people in the wrong part of the world at the wrong time for the wrong reasons. On purpose. Because he's a Fabian, isn't he? Yeah, isn't he part of that? Absolutely. So there you go. So that's all you need to say. He's a Fabians, and Fabians are rudderless, raceless, soulless wretches. And we need to sort of point that out to people. And there's no point, as soon as people cow, I think, to a sentence that's been uttered by Keir Starlin or whoever it may be, they've won. They've got you. They've got your head straight off. And, half of these events that occur in the world don't even need to have happened. They're never going to impact on your life ever in any substantial way. And yet most people spend an awful lot of time fretting about world news. I always remember my dad saying when we were young, when they started to sort of globalise news on the BBC in the early 70s, because they didn't before that, right? And he would say, why do we get any news about what we're doing? What about this nation? Why am I watching stuff about all these other parts of the world and no one's talking about? Because it's a great distraction. Oh, you might think it's bad here, but these people are getting blown up over there. Okay, that's true. We accept that. And our nation's got a role in it. I'm going, I don't. I'm a greengrocer from Bolton. What are you looking at me for? They always seek to make us pay for their mistakes. And through the currency system, they're able to do it. But with a provable signature-driven BSV system at the heart of economic affairs, that's gonna start to asphyxiate them. They operate in the wriggle room. They're a parasite. And you don't get deceived by the parasite, but they're very good at it. They're very, very good. We all get caught every now and again, and I go, drat, damn it. 3 days will go past, and I go, damn, you fool. Anyway, the idea is you've got to catch yourself. If you can sort of admit your mistakes, you learn. But if you bottle them up and go, no, I'm right about that, you're done for. You'll start to atrophy mentally and spiritually. It's bad. It's very bad.
Well, there's two things about going back to sort of Tommy Robinson just quickly. One, although he is pointing out a problem, that is that is certainly a problem that needs dealing with. I can't help but think that he's been brought in to highlight that problem.
Really?
Yeah. Unfortunately, to highlight that problem, to distract people away from the real problem that is the likes of Palantir. Bringing in their surveillance state. It's just like, oh, look at this. This is outrageous. Look what they've done. We need to do this. Oh, yeah, don't look at what we're doing over here. Don't talk about Peter Thiel and Palantir and, the PayPal mafia and all that kind of shit. Don't look at those. That's kind of like what I almost feel a little bit sorry for those people that were there because obviously they know there's a problem. However, are you familiar with David Clues? Who does, I think it's the UNN News or something like that?
He'll be on tonight, I think, at 8 o'clock, won't he? Yeah, Unity News Network. Yeah, the Scottish lad.
That's the one.
Yep.
So he was, I saw a video that somebody had posted about him the other day, and he was saying that basically what is required is a revolution. Like what happened back in the the Cromwellian days and all that kind of stuff. And he goes, are people up for that anymore? When you look at how weak, and pathetic and wet, a lot of people are. But the thing is, though, he is right in the fact that a new revolution is required, but it doesn't have to be a civil war type revolution. All it needs to be is a financial one. That's it. So even he doesn't realize the power of the genuine Bitcoin network just yet. So again,
he may do. It takes time, I think, Gary, for these ideas to trickle through into people's mouths so that they're expressing them like they're just talking about football results. That's when you know you've got it, right? When it's got traction at a really basic level, and it's going to take a little while. And sort of cutting to the quick with all the communication is the great challenge at this moment for people in your position, my position, and others who've got a great body of knowledge and need to find a way of distilling it down to like a poster at the side of the road that they see for 5 seconds. That's the challenge because it's about repetition and it's about attention grabbing. So, we live in the attention economy. We always have, by the way. It's always been about that. It's never, ever not been. It's just that it's been, with databases and stuff like that, they can fractionally measure your attention. I know you've got all these algorithms in Amazon that keep bombarding you with sock adverts because you looked at socks yesterday morning and now you get nothing but tons and tons of, or whatever it is, right? All this kind of stuff. I think one of the sort of secondary but very important sort of roles in the alternative communication space, or whatever we're going to call it, right, is that we've got to become more and more interesting and compelling all the time so that in simple terms, people begin to spend or get into a process where they spend more and more time listening to shows like this, even this one, its very self. I mean, why not? I think it's jolly good and I love it here. And so they start to spend more time and less time off the system. And it's a weaning process. We're weaning them off. We want to assist in weaning them off the currency drug and onto the healthy money. And that's part of the process. And we need little phrases like that and better ones than that to sort of, do the whole thing. When you were talking about BSV earlier, I just had a little flash to my head. I thought, we need a song, we need songs about, we do. We need little songs. They get school children singing BSV for you and me. So, childish stuff. It works. It absolutely works because repetition breeds attention. And you go, hey, They know all about this stuff. We've been studied like lab rats. And, particularly at the beginning of the last century when they set up Tavistock and all these other places, they got all these psychiatrists in from Germany and everywhere. And they were just into sort of people control. They're just maniacs, really. They're not about sort of understanding how human beings really operate. Because to do that, they've got to include God. And they certainly don't want to do that, ever. Particularly as they're sort of doing their best to pretend to be God, which is just lamentably pathetic. But this is the case, and they're going to breed a population that won't be able to detect it. That's the concern, And I think even, you just quoting there David Clues and everything about looking at people, and me just talking about just being up at the supermarket and stuff like that. That's the deep worry. It's the same dynamic that occurred with the COVID mask wearing. Instant compliance by vast numbers of people. Holy moly, no one's asking a question. No, because they probably couldn't even write one. They don't even know what a question mark looks like. It's not been out anywhere. And like question all these things.
I also think that was the first time anybody had really felt a sense of real propaganda. I mean, it was, that's what sort of like started making me smell a rat. It's just the fact that it was so heavy. 1 minute it was just like, get a jab to save Granny. It's just like, hold on a minute. If Granny's already had a jab, then why do I need mine? But then it became, no jab, no job. I was like, whoa, hold on 1 second. Like, what on earth is going on here? And I genuinely don't think people suspect. I mean, I think it took a lot of people by surprise. It took me by surprise. I woke up pretty quick, but, luckily, because I already knew what I knew. I wasn't ever going to let them inject that shit into me, but no. Other people, fell for it straight away. Yeah, but again, and that's what I think they become. I think a lot of people became very remorseful of it, and scared, because the reason they took it is because they were scared. Now they're even more scared of the fact that they've taken it. What do you say to these poor people? But talking about these, sort of people and what they're going to be focused on, I made a comment earlier because I created an article on, does digital cash have a place in the economy? And some quite notable people came back with some genuine questions, and I had to answer them. And I came up with this as an answer. So I said, on a system like the Bitcoin network, people will not be interested in what others do in their private lives. They will only be interested in criminal activity that is having a detrimental effect on everyone's lives. So in other words, it's like the Bitcoin network only shines a light on criminal activity. Because people are not interested in what people do in their private lives, so long as they're acting in honor, causing no harm, injury, or loss. It's nobody else's business, but it will shine a light on criminal activity that has a detrimental effect. So, and they sort of seem to get that one. And on top of that, I said people will flood into the positive Bitcoin economy to escape the negative effects of the central bank-controlled fiat economy. Therefore, the central bankers will not have to agree to get out of the way. The people will simply push them out of the way. And then I carried on saying, the central bankers can either choose to remain in their own toxic economy, which will shrink to zero, or they can join the Bitcoin economy that grows continuously. When they do enter the Bitcoin economy, they will be forced to act with honesty and integrity because their actions are permanently recorded on a common private ledger. They'll be forced to adapt and eventually have to issue their own fiat currency on the Bitcoin network. That is unless we the people get in there first and start to issue usury-free credit notes like the Bradbury Pound or credit notes for labour in the same way that Hitler did to turn the German economy around after World War I. So in the same
Did you just say Hitler? Did you just say
I did.
Oh, it's great.
Not
many people know that.
Hitler was a Christian. Yeah.
It's so funny. It is. It's funny when you can get the joke, but most people don't even know why I'm laughing. But I mean, it's just. You can't talk about Hitler, can't we? All right.
Yeah, people have heard the because obviously when people are ignorant because we don't speak German, people have now listened to the interpretation of the speech, and it's just like, oh. So that's what he was talking about. And then you listen to other people saying, oh, yeah, Hitler was the greatest leader we ever had. And then when you actually understand what he was saying, rather than just listening to his tone of voice, because the German language is so rough, and you realise actually what he was saying, and you actually have context to it, suddenly it shines a different light on it. and a different perspective altogether. And then you read about other things, and then you've got David Irving, spitting truth bombs everywhere. It's just like, whoa, hold on a minute. So all these people, for example, that went to the United Kingdom rally, one of the chaps who gave a speech there said, we want more people to be like Winston Churchill. And I was just like, well, that's because you don't know what Winston Churchill was.
There is one who doesn't. I'll be quiet at the back. I just saw a video clip of it today, and it was in Parliament Square where that statue of that oaf is. And I was just looking at it, I said, when I'm in power, I'm melting that down and turning it into a urinal, because it's all he's fit for. But you see, it's about communications power to get this out fast enough. And people need to hear it, talk about it in a jocular and cheeky and confident way. I've not been all careful about it. Oh, you can't say that. Shut up. Learn something, you dimbo. It's what's needed. People just need a good slap.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, I even remember when my worldview was turned upside down. I couldn't deal with it. I think that's one of the things that sort of sent me crazy, because I always sort of I always thought that I was strong-minded. I was like, nothing will break me. All these silly fools that can't deal with stuff. And it almost broke me. And these people. I had
that with some friends, actually. I know exactly what you mean. I would lend books out, and they'd come back and they'd have a sorry look on their face. I can't finish this. And stuff like that. I'd go, why not? It's great. Well, I'm like a big kid with it. Don't you think this is brilliant? No, we know what's really going on. Honestly, it's like, just deliver it like a cheeky English lad. That's really what's needed. I just think it's brilliant. Anyway, look at that. That's not an hour. It's not even 55 minutes. It's about 10 minutes, that, Gary. About 10 minutes. It's a bloody joke, mate.
It was great. We'll see everybody next week. Stay tuned.
We will. Yeah, stay tuned. Eric Von Essex is up in about 4 or 5 minutes, something like that. Yep. See you soon.
Hey guys, all you truth seekers out there.